The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Bursa webinar number 10. All right. Welcome to Bursa webinar number 10, where we're going to talk about the tech industry exploration. Now, as usual, if you can hear me, please, if you can hear me and see us, please go to the control panel and click raise the hand button. Okay, click raise the hand button. You can hear me and see us. Okay, if you can hear us clearly, okay, please click raise the hand button. All right, thank you very much. You may put down your hands. Now today we are very excited to have invited a very renowned authors, okay, a very renowned author, PC Wong, to come and share with us today what does he think about the new technology industry outlook. And as usual, our disclaimer today is that first thing first, okay, whatever we're going to share with you today does not give you any buy or sell signal. We were just doing it for a case study basis only. Okay, so if you decide to buy anything or sell anything, you do it at your own financial risk. And this Bursa webinar series is brought to you by Bursa Malaysia and managed by LifeChamp. And today we're on topic 10. If you want to know what is intrinsic value, join our next month webinar on every first Tuesday of the month. We're going to do this Bursa Malaysia webinar, except for next month because next Tuesday is a public holiday, which is so next month we're going to do on Wednesday. Now, want to introduce our speaker today. He is PC Wong. He graduated from National University of Singapore in 1989. If you follow our session earlier of this webinar series, he also came to Bursa webinar series to talk about gold earlier the year. And he has 26 years of working experience with several listed company and multinational. He is the author of Invest in REITs, which reached popular top 10 non-fiction bestseller. He's a full-time investor, author, and trainer, have been investing in the Bursa Malaysia market and international market since 1995. Now, PC, I heard that now you are a full-time investor, that you every day like consume 10 hours of content.
Actually, it's about during weekdays. I spent about 16 hours on the internet.
16 hours of internet to study company, right?
Study company, understanding economic trend, commodity trend, geopolitical, and politics.
So, do you bring with us today like latest trend in technology?
I think today on the topic, I will share with you the global outlook on technology. Before we look on a more local scale. But the general trend is always on the few things. I think that you have heard before is Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, and also a lot of those that are related to interfacing multiple platforms. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So today in this webinar, we are going to share with you global technology revolution, Malaysian tech industry. What do we expect from Malaysian tech industry, and learn the risks and rewards of tech industry investing. And then we're going to do a few case studies, and ultimately we're going to share with you the future of technology industry. Now, why don't we just start with the global tech revolution first?
Yeah. So global tech revolution. Now, one thing that is already happening all over the world and is occurring in all sectors of the economy. Now, because of the revolution throughout the last few decades, we see some industries fail and some will excel. And it drives innovation and entrepreneurship. Because of the discovery of new technology, we have a large scale of companies that go into private funding, crowdfunding, and also having those company specific like investment in technology, like like those cradle funds. Okay, they move into those companies to help them secure the funding and help them develop, and then eventually to list. Okay, so because of that, there's a burst of entrepreneurship in the tech sector, and this will drive the next phase of global growth. What we are seeing right now is that the global growth currently and last few decades, has already transitioned. We see that in terms of global growth, we have manufacturing that is very labor intensive. Right now, it is being supported by robotics. Then in terms of warehousing, previously a lot of paperwork documentation, but right now warehousing is all on digital signature. It's all on using robotics to move the items, okay, and using AI to understand consumer spending. And because of that, we see a lot of retailers, they have actually uh, move away from not so-called move away. They actually closed because they failed to move away from their traditional business,
brick and
and
mortar.
yeah, and they actually failed to follow the trend, and that's why some retailers actually fail. And that's the thing that is going about in the industry, all sectors, because of revolution of technology. And because of revolution of technology, our livelihood improves because of it. And sometimes the world becomes more dangerous also because of it. Because I remember a quote, I can't recall the person who wrote it, but he said that you can't say that mankind uh, never I think never improve. For in each new war, they find a new way to kill you. So that is what technology does as well.
Yeah.
Okay. The code is something similar like this. It's saying that humankind, you cannot say that they never advance, because in every new war they find a new way to kill you, and that's what's happening right now. Okay, from a nuclear explosion, atomic explosion in Japan during the Second World War. Right now, you have explosion that needn't kill people, but it will destroy the entire infrastructure, like electromagnetic pulse, okay, that can actually destroy a whole city without really killing the people, but rendering the whole, because our whole world is driven by electricity. Now that would actually kill off the electricity in a particular locality. So can you imagine when electricity is down, okay, a lot of things that runs on electricity will be out of order. And that includes the way that in terms of water management, in terms of hospital, in terms of even logistics, okay, because logistics runs on electricity as well.
Yeah.
So that is how the world can be dangerous as well. We can say that technology help us improve, but meanwhile we also have the other side of technology, which is more driven towards destruction.
Yeah. So can you give us some examples of the global technology revolution?
Yeah. So this is what is happening. Okay, and we look at on the topmost left-hand corner, in terms of stealth technology, that is in terms of military hardware, a lot of the technology is moving towards stealth. Stealth actually works fine with aircraft, but then people, the military industrial complex, propose things like stealth ships. I think stealth ships is a bit way off, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Because satellite can actually see the ship. Although another ship that is within the same area nearby, they may not be able to detect the stealth ship. But then satellite can actually see the ship.
How about stealth submarine?
Yeah. So even stealth submarine, they are looking at things how to minimize the noise level, because submarine that generate noise can be
harmful for the environment.
Not that, because the sonar technology for the enemy to detect a submarine, unless the noise level is very low. If the noise level is high, then the sonar technology can detect the submarine. So that's why submarine can be stealth as well. Okay.
Wow.
Then in
You
terms
sound
of
like an expert in weapon.
yeah, I read a lot and also
Military.
world history here. Yeah. So in terms of advanced materials, stealth is again one type material, but then in terms of advanced material, we have seen that nowadays structures can actually withstand greater weight with lesser requirement of materials, simply because those materials are much stronger. You know, just like very interesting thing when we built the KLCC tower, and it's not made of steel, but actually it's concrete. So that company actually did a lot of R&D to come up with concrete that will not overload 88-story building, but meanwhile strong enough to support it. So that's how materials are being advanced, not only in terms of construction, but in terms of even the very simple things that we do, like those household goods that we use can be improved through advanced materials. Then, of course, in the military, there's also the hypersonic missile, which is right now the next level of weaponry.
Is that the image of the missile?
That is an artist's impression. Now, that's the artist's impression of the Wave Rider missile. And currently, the hypersonic missile, only China and Russia has it. And the US, of course, is demanding that they should have a hypersonic missile as well. Okay, then in the next decade, what we will see is an explosion of electric vehicles, EVs. Now, if you like the picture of that EV car, that is actually a China brand, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't come across as an EV car to me. As far as it comes as a sport car, until
Yeah.
you label it as EV, then oh, it is a EV sports car.
Yeah. So, in fact, by 2025 to 2030, European Union would actually stop all internal combustion engine vehicles. They have to be either hybrid or full EVs. And China is also going towards that area as well.
Yeah,
and so
perhaps
is
that's what
India.
our Dr. Mahathir should also learn. Okay?
Yeah.
So third national car or second national car should be a EV car.
Yeah. So then the other thing is robotics. Now the picture that I show you of that robot, yeah, is actually what we call what they wrote was a journalist robot. Okay, and she actually, or it rather, it managed to come up with a 300 characters news report in just 1 second. Okay, and that is how robots are very right now used in a lot of areas. Like what is happening in some countries, yeah, especially in the US, when they raise the minimum wage. Raising the minimum wage, of course, can be a very good thing. But then what happens was companies suddenly realize that they have increase in cost. So what they do, they have robots now flipping burgers. They have robots now. Even when you drive through a McD store, okay, you can see that they have a machine there that takes your order rather than having someone to actually write it down. So that's how jobs are being minimized because of escalating cost. And robots and other means of robotics are being used to reduce labor cost. And a lot of companies are actually going for that because when you use robotics, they don't have annual leave. They can work 24/7, no MC, okay, and no union, okay. So that's why a lot of big companies, they are moving into robotics. But similarly, okay, it is also resulting in a lot of labor force being reduced, and a lot of people could lose their jobs as well. Now that's the negative impact of robotics. And in terms of space technology, China is actually at the forefront in terms of quantum technology. China actually developed the quantum computer, and recently they launched the world's first quantum satellite. Now, quantum satellite is
Can you tell us what is quantum technology?
quantum technology. In terms of physics, I'm not so familiar, but it's like the next phase of hyper performance of technology. For example, the quantum satellite is said to be unhackable. Okay, and in terms of quantum computing, it actually works at a very very fast speed. So much so that a lot of technologies are saying that the next development of computer into quantum computing will actually speed up the processing of the entire network. Then again, in terms of quantum technology, is being used to develop quantum radar. Quantum radar is a technology which some scientists say could enable a country that possess that technology to detect stealth fighters. So sometimes military industrial complex, they have one that is weaponized, then you have another that will be defensive as well. Yeah. Then in terms of science research and pharmaceutical and biological, okay, I think the next phase that everyone is talking about is genome mapping and cloning. Okay.
That is interesting.
Yeah, cloning is something that a lot of Western nations are against because of religious belief. Okay, and because of that, there's only one country right now that has the world largest cloning factory.
Is that China?
Yes, because they don't have any official religion. Okay, although the citizens are allowed to practice according to their needs. Okay, to what they want, but then officially the country has no official religion because it's a communist country. But so therefore, the largest cloning factory right now is in China.
What do they clone?
They are looking at animals right now, but once I think if the next level will be actually cloning human organs, so that they are able to do transplant. Okay, so whatever you see in the movies like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's becoming truer every day because in terms of genome mapping, scientists have already reached a stage where parents can determine whether the child is blue eye or blonde, okay, by doing alterations to the genetic sequences. So, and genome mapping will go the next stage because it will be used to identify certain diseases and find the elusive cure. Yeah. So then, in terms of information technology and communication technology, it's all into AI, quantum computing, okay, and 5G. Now, the in terms of ICT, the next phase will be mobility plus connectivity. So much so that people on the go will want to be able to do a lot of stuff. Okay, and all this could also be interfaced via Internet of Things. Okay, IoT. So and a lot of companies right now are using big data and using AI to do diagnosis of problem. For example, some companies, biotech companies, they are actually linking a network of hospitals or research so that whatever diagnosis that will be linked together using AI to interpret the big data and then coming out with a diagnosis that can be as near accurate as possible with a higher percentage. So that is being done in medical science. Okay, so AI is the next transition because in terms of even military weaponry, okay, some countries are using AI technology to actually reduce the loss of human lives. For example, even in those drones that we see, it's now operated manually through a communication center. But right now, those drones that you see in the movies and so on, in the future, they will actually have AI, okay, and they will be independent of the person operating them, okay, and even uh, uh, submersible vehicles as well. Yeah. So even in the battlefield, Russia has reached the technology of they have built a weapon system that reminds me very much like what you see in Terminator. Okay, but it's not interfaced with AI. It's still being controlled manually. Okay, then in terms of transport, you have the high-speed rail and maglev rail. Maglev is actually using electromagnetic to create float, yeah, to float the train so that it can run at super high speed.
I sat on one before.
Yeah. That must be rather thrilling, yeah.
Yeah, the train is running at 300 over kilometer per
Yeah.
hour. That was
So
fast.
when you look at all this, you see that Europe has, Russia has, China has, But if
I think all this high speed thing is mainly in China.
Yeah.
I think Europe doesn't have one.
you have France,
Maglev train.
Maglev maybe
Only
not,
in
but
China.
high speed yes. But then if you look at the train system in US, they still use the 60 mile per hour diesel train, the Amtrak.
I also said before.
If you want to remind yourself, how is it? Then you look at Unstoppable, the movie, and that's basically what the US train is like. Then in terms of energy, besides green technology, okay, a lot of development now is going into green technology. Green technology is not also used in terms of generating power. Okay, it's used to control waste. And then what I show you on the picture is actually a thorium plant. Now a thorium plant basically is a nuclear plant, but then instead of using uranium, they use thorium. Thorium actually has
an element.
It's an element, but it has lesser risk of radiation or damage to the environment versus uranium. Now, the thorium technology was actually many decades ago developed, but then the US did not want to use it because you cannot weaponize thorium, but you can weaponize uranium. Okay, into a nuclear bomb and so on.
So this is less harmful than
Yes,
uranium.
but China decided to pick up that technology, and now they are using they are building, or rather they are experimenting on thorium. But then eventually they may want to make it into a fuel cell so that it can be used in vehicles or even airplanes. So China is looking at how to miniaturize it because it has less damage to the environment. Yeah, so these are some of the technology evolution.
Can you tell us what are the applications in technology?
So when we look at it, what are the applications of technology? Okay, yeah. First, when it comes to consumers want to look at communication, okay, connectivity, convenience, and security. Businesses and industries, very much like the consumer, okay, where you have communication, connectivity, but there's also in terms like efficiency, productivity, competitive advantage, safety, and security. Because in a business, when it comes to application of technology, having a cutting edge technology can determine a company moving into the next leap forward, okay, and therefore give them unsurpassed competitive advantage. So again, technology will also be used to improve efficiency and productivity, like usage of robotics and AI. Then in terms of environment, okay, the environment needs green and clean energy, and the energy could be from natural sources, for example, or processed. Okay, natural would be like wind, solar, and such. Yeah, processed would be like from biomass. Okay, biomass burning and all those are called processed, or it could be refined. Refined means the normal oil refinery where you get the gas to be used for energy. That of course fusion. Fusion would be nuclear fusion and such to generate nuclear power. So, but the most important thing I think in terms of the environment, technology is being used to produce a low carbon footprint, in terms of materials that we use and in terms of processes. Okay, like AirAsia, they use technology to actually reduce the carbon footprint because you need to print so many documents like previously. Okay, and then technology for green environment is also used in smart buildings so that they conserve energy and making use of natural lighting, okay, to improve the aesthetics of the building, as well as making the building very cost efficient. So then in terms of transport, technology is used to look at time saving, safety, security, fuel efficient, and capacity. And capacity will be a thing that will gradually increase, because if you look at it, the Airbus, from a smaller version, it has become, the 380 version that has even greater capacity. Okay, so that's how technology is being used in transportation. Then in terms of medical science, technology is used in diagnostics, okay, treatment of performance, okay, treatment performance to, for example, a patient who has undergone treatment, technology is used to monitor the performance of that drug, okay, and then to increase the survival rate. Then in agriculture, technology is used to improve yields, okay, of the plant. For example, in some, let's say using China as an example, like previously they have the paddy fields that can yield maybe up to 2 to 5 tons, okay, per acre or per hectare, I can't recall. But with the using technology to find the best grain, right now that same paddy field can actually generate up to 10 to 15 tons. So that's how technology is used in agriculture. Okay, then it's also used to improve efficiency and productivity in terms of machinery in agriculture. Then in terms of plant and livestock health, so that lesser livestock will be susceptible to diseases. So technology is used to monitor their health. Then of course, in terms of government, okay, technology is used widespread in the government in terms of communication, connectivity, efficiency, productivity, transparency, and security. So that's very important for the government in terms of keeping records and also in generating that flow of information between government to businesses as well as the public with the government. So in terms of military, technology is used for the hardware, where it's in the areas of offense and defense. And then in software, user hardware interface, okay, AI hardware interface, hack-proof communication, and etc. Now, very interesting, I came across a report from the that was issued by the Pentagon. The next technology is how to put technology into the human being. Okay, so
Very important.
so it's actually implant. Okay, and externally right now the Pentagon is developing, and also Russia.
Heart pacer.
They are developing something like what you see in the first G.I. Joe movie, exoskeleton. So you actually wear the external skeleton that will actually help you to improve in terms of carrying the weight and in terms of performance. So they call it the exoskeleton, which means an external skeleton. So
You need to go back and watch G.I. Joe.
yeah, the very first one, and Russia is also developing the same. But the more recent one, which is rather disturbing, and it reminds me of the X-File television series I see way back in the 1990s about soldiers being injected with a kind of serum so that they won't feel tired and they will sleep even less.
Okay, sounds like Captain America.
And also on top of that, they are going to test certain serums on soldiers so that when there's damage to the body, how they actually speed up the blood clot to prevent excessive bleeding. So these are how technology has been evolving, where we have actually technology interfacing with the human beings. So it's disturbing, but it's also things that generate money, I guess. Okay, then in terms of space, okay, you have efficient and safe delivery of payload and satellite. okay, and then efficient data link, and these are being used in terms of satellite technology, okay. But also, if I wonder, you all have come across a report, Japanese construction giant Obayashi stated that they want to build a space elevator that will go up about 300-kilometer high into space, but anchored to the earth, and then it will have actually what you call, that elevator would be to
Outer space station.
a small station, I would say, where they can actually view the earth from outer space. Okay, that's Obayashi plan,
Okay.
and
It's
of
a
course,
Japanese.
yes, Japanese company.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
but then
should
of
work
course,
with sorry, should work with the
Elon Musk.
yeah, Elon Musk company. What's the name?
SpaceX.
SpaceX, yeah, correct.
Yeah, so then I think between 2030 to 2050, the the rich Arab nations like UAE, China, India, the EU, and US will be racing against each other to have the first moon or Mars colony. Okay, so that's how the space technology now is being evolved.
So after you're talking about global technology revolutions, I think now I'm a little bit mind blown already, like how far the technology has progressed and advanced, and how outdated I am to all this incredible and remarkable breakthrough that they have made in technology field. But can you tell us about how about Malaysia? Are we adapting to this global technological advancement, or we are falling behind, or we're catching up?
I think Malaysia will always be a place for servicing and manufacturing for the time being.
Yeah, like semicon, I think we are big for semicon.
So let's look at Malaysia technology. Now, under the Bursa's technology classification here, it consists of many ICT, information and communication technologies, companies, and a handful of green tech companies, and even an aquaculture company. Now, that's very interesting. I come across there's one particular aquaculture company. Yeah. So for the purpose of this webinar, we will focus on the ICT industry and the companies within it. Okay, so let's look at the overview of the Malaysian tech industry. Now, this is from the Department of Statistics Malaysia. You can see that the information and communication technology (ICT) contributed to the national economy at 18.2% in 2016. Now, 2016 is the latest figure that I managed to get, and 2017 has not yet been released. Yeah. So if you look at it, now the contribution from the ICT to the national economy is valued at 224 billion. Okay, and that is further broken down into the e-commerce, which is non-ICT industry. Okay.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. So e-commerce has a lot to do with services. In this instance, like payment platform or companies that are selling goods online. Okay, so that's not ICT. Okay, those in the ICT would be in the manufacturing. Okay, and that is non-e-commerce. Okay, so I think the statistics department actually broken that into two parts. And if you look at it, the ICT industry, that is the ICT industry contributed 164.9 billion, and then the e-commerce contributed 59 billion. So of course, e-commerce seems to be at a lower growth rate at 4.8% versus the ICT, which is at 13.4%. But interestingly, okay,
that share is not growth rate, that's share. Growth rate is 9.4% and 8.5%.
Yeah. Okay. The share of the 18.2%.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So the ICT remains the biggest share. Okay. But then if you look at it, the e-commerce actually has increased at a faster pace than the ICT. 9.4 versus 8.5. So if you look at it as a share of the industry, the ICT services seems to be the bulk of it, okay, which is at 40%. Okay, then ICT manufacturing at 36.1%, and ICT trade at 13.8%, and then the content and media at 6.4%, and other industries at 6.1, at 3.7%. Yeah. So no doubt, I think in terms of ICT manufacturing and ICT services, they remain the bulk of it.
Yeah, like 3/4 really.
Yeah. So if you look at it, the e-commerce side, it contributed 6.1% to the GDP. Okay, and you look at the employment. Okay, it contributed 7.6%, and then in terms of employment in the ICT industry, now that's 1.07 million people, and if you look at the share to the GDP, yeah, again, ICT industry is 1.3%, and non-ICT industry at 4.8%. Then, if you look at the growth, from the growth 2016 is 8.7%, and 2015 was 9.6%. But if you look at it, it has been growing steadily ever since. Okay, so actually the 2015 but there is actually 17.8. Never mind, let's look at the 17.8. Growth as percentage of GDP. This one is the growth in the sector. Yeah. So if you look at it, 2010, the contribution is 16.5, but then the growth is 16.5% in 2010. Then it moved up 15.9% in 2011, and then at 15.9% in 2012. And it's a step ladder kind of improvement. And the e-commerce seems to remain pretty consistent, yeah, as
4 point something.
Yeah, always 4 point something. So under the 11th Malaysian Plan, 2016 to 2020, the ICT industry is expected to contribute 17% to the GDP, according to the Malaysian Department of Statistics. But then if we look backwards, okay, 2016 already exceeded the target. Okay, at 18.2%. Yeah. So
that means our country like to set target that is too low and achievable.
Yeah. So okay,
because by 2015 already achieved the target.
So
already.
just as a recap a bit, the double-digit figure you see on the step ladder is contribution as per GDP. But then the growth rate of that industry is 8.7%, and 2015 the growth rate of that industry was 9.6%. But as a contribution to the GDP, okay, in 2016 it's already exceeded that 17% target set. Yeah. So Malaysia aspires to be a developed nation by 2025. I think that's setback of 5 years. If I remember correctly, by 2020 supposed to be
Where do you get this one? Under the 11th Malaysia Plan?
Yeah.
Since when they pushed back to 2025? I'm not even aware.
This was from
Since
a news report. Yeah, from a news report that I retrieved all this.
So our former Prime Minister secretly pushed it back without us knowing.
The ICT sector, has been identified as a conduit in achieving this. Now, fourth industrial revolution, the 4 IR and Industry 4.0, key areas identified by the IDC Malaysia are the big data in the cloud, enterprise mobility, device deployment, IoT, Internet of Things, cognitive cybersecurity, data center vision, and fintech. Now, you can see that these are very much services orientated, and also in terms of manufacturing to support these few key areas. And you can see that what is missing is, of course, AI and robotics. Which,
how about blockchain?
Blockchain would be together with fintech. Okay. So that is why I think Malaysia, to a certain extent, lacks in terms of that expertise in designing and also developing AI tech as well as robotics.
So
So
how likely do you see Malaysia succeed in, embracing or using these technologies?
I think for Malaysia, if Malaysia is able to corner certain aspect of this, then it will still be an achievement, okay? Because if Malaysia have that kind of infrastructure that can help the country achieve these few sectors first, then I think it's an achievement by itself. So what comes next is then to move up the value chain, whether we will be looking more into supercomputers, will we be looking more into robotics? But I think the whatever that has been identified here is based on our existing infrastructure. But I think once we have moved into these levels, these few key areas, then the infrastructure would have widened. And when the infrastructure widened, then you can add more subsectors that can be supported by this widened infrastructure. So I think it's a beginning, okay, and hopefully these are the things that can be achieved. Okay, so in 2016, ICT industry already surpassed the target set in the 11th Malaysian plan. So it goes to show that the ICT industry in Malaysia is moving not at a snail pace, but I think at a greater pace than first estimated. So in terms of ICT industry, let's look at the companies. Now, it includes the following types here. One is manufacturing, which is into semiconductor, micro and radio frequency chips here, RF chips, automated machineries and devices, electronic components and parts, etc. In terms of services, will be system provider and support, online payment platform, mobile applications and software development, data storage, hardware and software support. Okay, so one thing about the semiconductor industry, I think in Malaysia could be in a very advantageous position. That is because of the trade war, where US is banning China from getting access into certain semiconductors, okay, and also the tariff against Chinese electronics components and semiconductors that go into US, and China meanwhile also have some tariffs on certain electronic and components that is coming from the US. So Malaysia can actually be in an advantageous position that can supply to both the US and to China.
So tell us about Malaysia technology industry outlook.
Yeah. So looking at the Malaysia tech industry outlook, China and US trade war will cause disruption in supplies, okay, especially on tech-related products such as electronics, components and parts, semiconductor, micro and RF chips, automated machineries and devices, and medical equipment. But I think Malaysia could benefit because our ICT industry is quite uh, diversified, but only at the moment, I think, would be those that are able to supply electronics and components parts and semiconductor, because not all will actually benefit. Because in terms of services and such, a lot of Malaysia services are very much more within the local area rather than on an international area. So, but then
So you're not into that global supply chain that
yes,
in depth yet.
yes. But I think in terms of real products, okay, as in semiconductor, yes, I think Malaysia, like certain automated machinery and devices, Malaysia are already exporting to the world.
Okay.
Okay, Malaysia are already exporting to the world. So, because of the diversification, between manufacturing and services. Services, I think Malaysia have not reached a stage where it is in the global arena as much as in the manufacturing side. So, therefore, on the services side, whether it's positive or not depends on the consumer and business confidence in the economy, because they supply more on the local side. Okay, and although it's a wide industry, Okay, but then to really leapfrog, you need to move beyond Malaysia. And those companies that are already, whether it's in terms of servicing or in terms of real products, that they are already outside of Malaysia, then that would do pretty well.
Okay. So looking at it, the technology sector is certainly one of the fastest growing sector in the world as well as Bursa Malaysia. But I'm sure that it comes with a certain level of risk because we know that there's rewards. But can you tell us more about these subchapter about risk and rewards?
Yeah. So let's talk about the risk. Now, it requires a company to constantly upgrade its manufacturing facilities to provide value-added service. And that is why the technology companies, sometimes people say, how come the technology company don't really pay very good dividends and so on? Because a lot of the capital need to be reinvested to keep the company at a competitive advantage. So, because if otherwise technology is always changing, if the company fails to follow or become a leader in that particular sector, then its competitive edge would actually fall. So that's why it requires a lot of upgrading. And one of the risks is such that sometimes companies that are too impatient for growth, they will actually borrow a lot and therefore will lead to higher debt because they want to be be a market leader, but somehow or rather instead of looking at revenue, they look at number of users. So that's why sometimes grading companies, technology company, can be a challenge because people say Tesla have not been making any money for as long as they have existed. Netflix as well, but then their share are really very, very high because suddenly investors value the number of users in Netflix and in Tesla, what the future promise. So it becomes like less fundamental. And sometimes when you evaluate a technology company, you will also fall into that category that you look at the ambitions, you look at the potential rather than at the fundamental. And therefore, sometimes, the risk that you might follow a wrong company that because they're ambitious, they got potential, but fundamentally they are not sound. So that's why when it comes to risk, you have to be very careful and need to know how to assess it. For me, if I want to assess an ICT company, I would often relate it back to revenue and in terms of profit. Because if it's not generating despite the hype, I will also ignore it. Yeah. So as I mentioned, a lot of the money is used, okay, to spend on R&D and upgrade technology know-how. And then companies which lack will be left behind and the flash in the pan popularity and then dwindle to obscurity. Okay, now this is what I mean by companies may spend on technology, okay, but then once they spend, okay, it may be a sudden flash in the pan, like Groupon, okay, suddenly, but Groupon business is so easy to copy, and then suddenly everyone also have discount coupons everywhere, and therefore Groupon actually perform very badly. Okay, and BlackBerry too, because BlackBerry rely a lot on their existing platform. They rely on their existing models, but when touchscreen suddenly come into the market with better operating system such as and Android and the Apple iPhone operations, then BlackBerry actually become less popular. So that's why even companies they spend on R&D and upgrading up to a certain stage, a competitor might just come out of nowhere, and then whatever a company spend on that technology suddenly become obsolete. So these are the kind of risky environment in that most technology companies face.
Okay, yeah.
So a paradigm shift in the way business is conducted or the introduction of new technology could make a business obsolete, and we can see it in terms of Kodak. Okay, Fujifilm could also have, disappeared into obscurity, but
What do they do?
they actually saved by the medical section because no matter what, people still require X-ray film.
Mm.
So they are very strong in the X-ray. So that's why Fujifilm didn't die when the film in cameras die. Okay, and Kodak, because failing to react to digital camera, Kodak actually, is now being. I think Kodak is now a dead company, but I think other companies have already bought some of their patents. Yeah, and then U.S. retailers, you can see a lot of retailers in the U.S. closing shop. In Toys R Us in U.S. has already declared bankruptcy.
They only need Amazon.
Yeah. So, even in Malaysia, you see people are buying from Lazada, okay, which has very strong presence in Malaysia, okay. And if you go to the shopping mall nowadays in Malaysia, you will see that even the shopping malls are now evolving. They are now catering more for F&B rather than on clothes, on fashion, and all those. So, but one type of retail industry that I see that can really continue to do quite well will be those high-end brands, because no one want to pay few thousand ringgit for a bag and then purchase it online. They would want, when the person is buying few thousand ringgit worth of product, I think they want to stand in front of a mirror, okay, see how they look, by and when they wear it, what are the accessories that goes on. So I think those high-end boutiques will continue to do quite all right, but those that cater for a lot of common goods. In fact, in China, a lot of those IT shops, a lot of them are actually gone because people can actually buy it online, and there are so many price comparisons available. And one thing for sure, I think the video rental business is dead. Even in Malaysia, if you remember during the 80s, we used to have the video tape. That our parents would rent from the video rental outlet. Okay, then right now everything is streaming. Even the DVD and Blu-ray that we see that is sold by the retailers, less and less people are actually buying those, and because the because of the rental, okay. But those that operate on the online platform, they don't require to pay rental for the shop, so they are essentially more efficient, and they do not service. They provide a streaming service, and people can actually uh, sign up for a membership. Then they just retrieve from the cloud every time they want to view it. Okay, so this is how certain technology have changed the way that business is done.
Now, if you look at the new retail concept by Alibaba,
Yeah,
and I can see that the luxury brand will be purchased online as well, because they just need to go to the new retail store and try to put on the stuff, and then they can purchase it online, because a lot of when they buy cosmetic, they can just tap on the screen and tap different color that they can see that there's
the changing product is actually the interactive mirror.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I think they also developed the kind of car where you just go and test drive the car and can purchase it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I think in other country, I guess the need of online, the need of offline store is just to be relevant. In the olden days, right, we have an online platform. It's just to be relevant, because everybody go online.
Yeah.
Just go online and check, and then actual transaction is done offline. But now I think the world is changing, especially in China. Is to become cashless. They don't have they just go to see the handbag. See the luxury handbag there, purchase handbag online. Because maybe at this store they don't have the kind of handbag, the kind of color, so they can buy it online and then they ship it there.
I think China has actually went way ahead of everyone, way ahead of Europe or even the US. And just to share with you, one of the latest study I did with on a Chinese company here. That Chinese company is providing apps for car salesmen. So much so that the salesman can actually go out of the shop and meet clients and show the model by using augmented reality. Okay, if the customer, is not able to go to the shop, the salesman can meet up the customer and then show the model using augmented reality.
AR. Okay.
AR. Okay.
That is
So
very interesting.
so that's how it's changing in China. And I think in terms of e-commerce, no country changed it at a much faster pace than in China. And a lot of us are just followers. Okay. So that's why I always feel that the ICT is a dynamic business and the only constant is change.
Yeah, so that's why it has huge risk. Like if the company invests in is a laggard, then it may not be able to perform that well.
Even that company may be very hot, they come up with something very hot, a new technology, like I say, but then someone comes up with a better. And if you're not able to cope, then that company will be left
So
behind.
if there's an ICT company that never invest in R&D, something that you need to reconsider.
Yeah. Okay, so that's why have to be very careful. So then let's look at the rewards. Now, most ICT companies have very humble beginnings, okay? And because of that, sometimes they always start very, very small, okay, by just having some so-called venture funds, okay, coming in, or cradle funds coming in to support that company. So then they gradually build their business, okay, and then they expand, and then they get listed and expand further. So that's why, because of that, they started on a very low platform. Okay, it provides the opportunity to get in when the share price is low, and then to ride on a burst of growth over the long term. So some ICT companies also already have very large customer pool, okay, but they only list when they have achieved consistent growth. So you have two versions here. Okay, one will only started very slow. They want to build up gradually. The other would keep on building their customers pool and all those, so that they have a very large track record, and then they will list. Okay, these companies will be huge demand during the IPO and could see an immediate surge upon listing. So there's two types of companies here that you can pay attention to. And then one thing you must know, that ICT companies are all growth companies. Cash are often used to increase competitive edge rather than being returned to shareholders in the form of dividend. But capital gain can more than offset this. Okay, so let's do a case study.
Yeah, that would be very great. I think some of attendees are anticipating this.
So we'll look at two companies. I think these two companies are actually quite hot in the ICT right now. Okay, so one is a manufacturer and the other is a service provider. Now, Vitrox Berhad manufactures automated vision inspection equipment and system on chip embedded electronics devices for semiconductor and electronics packaging industry. So the other one is Revenue Group, which listed not too long ago. It provides fully integrated payment platform for any business. So let's look at Vitrox share performance.
Wow, look at it.
If you look at over a 12-year span, Vitrox actually have gained 4,177.8%.
That's phenomenal.
Okay? So you can see that it started very low, okay, but because as it grows, it keeps on rewarding its shareholders with some bonus issues, and then keep on expanding its business. And then you see towards the end, like the share went parabolic. Okay, yeah. So this is a long-term growth of an ICT company. So if you have bought Vitrox, way back in the year 2000 plus, okay, before 2008, and then, you ride on the momentum, okay, and you keep on holding to the stock, then you can realize that gain. It's just like some companies like Amazon. Amazon, after the bubble burst in the year 2000, Amazon I think was valued less than $10, if I'm not wrong. Okay, and right now Amazon is almost $2,000. So that's that's how it is. Okay, that if you are patient, you can reap tremendous benefit, provided you select a company that is very pro-growth, has a very dynamic management, and they are very heavily invested um, into their R&D, so that they continue to have that competitive edge. Now, also why Vitrox is successful, because a lot of their devices and machineries are used for the semiconductor industry, and because the technology, is evolving constantly, and chips and semiconductor are things like a commodity, is consumed and it's not recycled. Okay, and anyway, you wouldn't use a 486 chip or 586 chip or even a Pentium 1 chip nowadays. Okay, because it keeps on improving technology, and therefore, you will have constant business. Okay, so this is why I think Vitrox is in the industry. As long as it serves the semiconductor industry, then um, it can be a very profitable business. But of course, right now, semiconductor are no longer considered, like semiconductor right now is considered as a commodity, and sometimes it can be overproduced. When there's too many semiconductors and chips, all those in the market, then the price could fall. Okay, and then the market needs some time to really offload this overproduction. So that's why there's some pros and cons. Okay, but at the end of the day, as long as a company keeps on delivering good revenue and profit growth, then the company would be doing pretty good. Now, in terms of financial performance, you look at Vitrox, yeah, revenue grew by 23%, net profit grew by 20.1%, EPS grew by 20.3%. So
this is year on year, right?
Yeah, year on year. So when you look at it, a company that grows by double digit, is really an achievement, because nowadays we are living in a very highly competitive world, even in terms of companies that are providing whether services or manufacturing or other type of or the non-ICT related. It's a very competitive world, and there's a lot of entries into the market, new entrants into the market, and for a company to consistently maintain double-digit growth, is a great challenge. And that any company that can achieve 20%, as far as I'm concerned, is really in my good books, because some companies, they on the average, most companies would achieve between 5 to 10% growth in terms of revenue, and profit growth maybe about 10 to 15. Okay, so if a company can consistently be strong on both revenue and profit, then I think that company really have been has very good management team. Yeah. So let's look at revenue share performance. Yeah. Now, newly listed, okay, and it has a 51.4% gain upon listing. And why is there a demand for
Actually,
revenue?
more than that, there are actually revenue.
Actually, it reached a high of 1.2.
Because their
almost 1.2.
IPO price is only 37 cents.
Okay.
Yeah, so it should be about 200%.
Yeah, because this is upon listing, the listing price,
Okay.
not the IPO.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So this one I base it on the share price upon listing. Okay, not the IPO. Of course, if you look at IPO, it has tremendous gain.
The one those that subscribe, I think the IPO was oversubscribed, and those that subscribe at 37 cents now gain about 200%, because now it's one ringgit. And then yesterday I checked, it's about 1 ringgit and about 19 cents.
Yeah. So that's why I think that's a reason why people go for it, and I think it's all in their prospectus. Now, if you look at it, the profit. Look at the GP margin first. The GP margin was below, okay, their 2015. Okay, 2017 forecast was below 2015. But then you look at the profit before tax was 32% higher. Yeah, 32%. Net profit margin is actually 32.3%, higher than in 2016 at 23%. So their profit before tax, okay, was higher, and the profit after tax is 26.1% versus 17.5% in 2016. So EPS is 4.18, higher than 2.7, and then the diluted is still much higher at 3.13 versus 2.03. So in terms of the full year estimate of 2017 was higher than that of 2016 in a few key indicators. Yeah. So if you look at it, the profit before tax grew 44.8% versus 2016, and then the profit after tax grew by 53.6%. EPS grew by 54.8%. So that's why, because of this, people are very excited. They want to have a piece of that company. So this is what I mean by another type of company whereby they build up their structure, get more customers, wait until they receive a substantial critical mass, then only they list, and then the share price would have tremendous growth. Okay, so if you look at it, in terms of transaction volume, okay, 2017 estimated was higher than 2016 estimated. Between 3,343 thousand. So that is 3.3 million versus 1.6 million. So transaction volume between 2017 and 2016 actually grew 106.1%.
So it means that the people who use the e-payment system to transact on the platform.
Yeah, actually grew.
Oh.
So I think all this in the prospectus make people very, very excited.
Yeah, that's why the IPO was oversubscribed.
Yeah, so that's why. But then, what I share with you in the last two case studies are just example how an ICT company behave. Now, it is not a recommendation for you to buy. Okay, please refer back to our disclaimer. But in the event that you are interested, please go and do a more detailed research on their balance sheet. What I share with you is just on the income statement. Please do a more detailed analysis of their balance sheet, whether whether any company is too highly in debt, is their debt to equity ratio high, is their current ratio low. Okay, these are the things that you must do. Okay.
Yeah. For example, revenue per high, their debt is pretty high as well.
Yeah. So that's why sometimes people go for the top line and then may not pay too much attention on the balance sheet. For me, when you invest in a company, you must have a combination of the top line as bottom line and then the balance sheet as well. The balance sheet must be strong, because even as we live in a situation right now where US stock market keeps on going higher, but a lot of emerging markets are actually collapsing. Okay, emerging currencies are actually collapsing. So that means that there's a huge potential that if the emerging market currency continue to fall, we could go back to 97, 98, 2.0. Okay, and then that would spread across the entire Asia continent, and that is when share price would actually fall, and weak companies with weak balance sheet will be those that will suffer the most. Okay, so you have to be very careful on that, right? So what to look for in an ICT company? Now you have to look for a company which possesses cutting edge technology and become a first mover into a specific industry.
But doesn't first mover die first one? Is the second mover that
advantage? Yeah. So that's why sometimes people say don't go for the first one, go for the second one, because the second one will always want to be the first, and they will work doubly hard. But then if we look at it, if a company possesses cutting edge technology and if there is a patent, then that company could be protected for many years against infringement of copyright. So not only first mover in the technology, but if they have a certain technology that is patented, then they actually have protection over a long period of years before, that patent then will be open for everyone, who wants to participate. So look for those that have this kind of advantage. So Malaysia's ICT customers are growing, but not enough to create critical mass. So best invest in a company with international presence and with multiple sources of revenue. Okay, so it does not rely on a single product or on a single platform. If let's say it relies on a single platform, it must have multiple users. So these are the things that you must understand. So company with user-friendly and adaptive platform could provide recurring income over the long term. So if you want to have, an investment that is able to survive through a period of growth and turbulence, then always look for a company, okay, that has the kind of platform or technology that is user-friendly, okay, and have recurring income, consistent recurring income over the long term. So that this company would not suffer tremendously. Of course, those in the manufacturing, in times of turbulence, then they would be hit rather hard as well, because orders could actually fall. So that's why for manufacturing, you need to have a company that is even stronger in terms of balance sheet, right? But those that provide platform, as long as people continue to consume, then at least there'll be recurring income. So you must look for a company with proven management team who can grow shareholders' value in a highly competitive market. So future of tech industry. Yeah. So let's look at what's the future will be. Now, I continue to stress that these few key ingredients would be what will determine the future. Okay, number one being artificial intelligence, big data, cloud, quantum computing, Internet of Things, robotics, nanotech, and blockchain. Now, blockchain is something that is if you follow the news, you have some people who are very pro and some who are very con, okay, on blockchain, okay. But let me share with you one
which
thing.
one are you?
Now, if there's any leader, you can only, if there's any uncertainty, just go to IMF and search on what Christine Lagarde said. Now, Christine Lagarde is the managing director of the IMF, and she holds tremendous power. Now, according to the IMF, they want to look at blockchain and possibly implement blockchain by 2021. Okay, whether it's a crypto-based blockchain or is it a blockchain in terms of accountability of reserve or certain financial instrument, I don't know. Okay, but IMF did state that they want to implement a blockchain-based environment by 2021. So, which means blockchain won't die, But what type of cryptocurrency, I don't know. Okay, so don't ask me about what cryptocurrency it is, but that technology is here to stay. Now, even in some, let's use China Mobile as an example. Now, China Mobile is using Internet of Things, cloud computing, and big data to help those logistic companies here to improve their efficiency. Okay, and in terms of biotech, one company in China called Sino Biopharm, they are using nanotech to deliver drug into distressed organs. So that's how it's being used. Okay, and they are also using big data, okay, cloud and artificial intelligence to come up with diagnostics. Okay, so
this is something that DG, Axiata, and Maxis should learn.
Yeah, that because companies like China Mobile and in fact, China will be the first mover into the 5G technology, and they already partnered themselves with Nokia. Nokia, although their handset is terrible, but Nokia as a telecommunication technology company. They are quite strong in terms of infrastructure and such. Okay, but their handsets are really finished lah. Okay, but then their infrastructure is really, in terms of ICT infrastructure, they are really quite good. So that's why China Mobile is partnering with Nokia to develop the infrastructure for the 5G. And China is rated by some analysts as the first mover into 5G. Because right now they are spending the most. So China Mobile is actually using all these current um, internet technology, okay, to scale up the value-added services. And their next level in their program would be how to utilize artificial intelligence and blockchain to improve the service to their consumers. So that's very exciting, because what has probably blockchain could be security based, okay, it could be encrypted in terms of messaging, okay, where it's under a blockchain, so that it's very difficult to hack. These are the things that can happen, okay. So, but whatever that will develop in the future, rest assured that these few key ingredients would result in improved security of information, banking, and payment system. Now, this is where fintech matters in terms of blockchain, okay? And then breakthrough in applied science and technology, that's when artificial intelligence comes into being, and quantum computing. Because when you want to do research on science and technology, only by having a supercomputer that runs analysis at a super fast rate can you be very efficient, okay, to determine whether that material or that particular technology can be used for to improve a certain process or improve a certain performance of a material. And then, of course, it will be these ingredients will also lead to improved efficiency in data integration and diagnosis, which is in terms of for pharmaceutical companies, for hospitals, and so forth. And then improve efficiency in multi-sector production, manufacturing, and logistics. This will be in terms of improving the turnaround time, okay, downtime, and then doing analysis to enhance productivity and efficiency, okay, and then where our logistic, okay, and delivery of products are very much based on just-in-time (JIT), then that technology use is even more important, because at any point in time that the logistic fail, what other alternatives there are, what can which company will then be able to supply in time. So that is why it's very important in logistics to use that kind of technology. And then, of course, in terms of advanced material and medicinal science, what kind of drug, the performance, the diagnostic, what kind of materials that can endure super strength and weatherproof, okay, and then improve communication, connectivity, equipment, and platform interface, very much for the end user like you and I. So this is what I see the future of the tech industry would evolve, okay, constant improvement of livelihood, okay, but it will be based on these few key ingredients. Yeah.
All right. So looks like we have come to the Q&A session. So if any question, please write in the Q&A box. And I see on my screen there are already a number of questions. So the first question is, how do we identify a company like Vitrox before it shoot up?
It will be looking at the IPO, of course, is the most important thing if you want to get in. Now, that's why whenever there's an IPO, okay, if let's say you're particularly interested in the tech sector, okay, when the IPO is out, look at how the company perform versus previous estimation. Like I shared with you the prospectus for revenue. Okay, if you look at it, the indicators look very strong. Okay, and then coupled, if let's say that the balance sheet is really very, very good, then in your mind you must form the opinion that this one particular stock that I want to get in. So you try in the IPO. If you fail in the IPO and then when it lists, okay, go in and buy, okay, because you are not looking at, like upon listing, okay, let's say revenue was already, I think 70, close to 70, 60 over cents, almost more than that, more than 100 over percent gain from the IPO. Don't feel that, oh, it's already gained 100%, I'm not interested, I don't want to buy. But then you are looking at the low end of entry over versus a long-term growth potential. So that's how you must be able to execute. Don't be afraid that because the share price only gain 20 or 30% or 50%, then you say that, I'm not interested anymore, because you are dealing with technology. And the thing about technology is that it will continue to grow as long as that company has a very sound business, a very good management team. And how long you hold that stock would depend on your analysis of its quarterly performance. If let's say it continue to contribute a lot, then you hold on for another 3 months, and then the next quarter it is also very spectacular, then you hold on longer. So by reviewing constantly, you lengthen your time of holding the stock, then you are able to capture on the high gain. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any metrics that or any difference that we should look at when we invest in technology stock compared to other stock? Like in other stock, we can be like this, but in technology stock, these are specific metrics that we should look for.
I will look at, very importantly, the nature of the business. Okay, what the company actually does. Okay, now if let's say that company is in manufacturing, I would want to know that that company, number one, for spectacular growth, okay, that company is already has an export market, because then you would not have a company that exists and depend only on the local business. Then its potential becomes greater, because once you have an international market, then as long as the company continue to manufacture good products, then they will have very, very good reference to other countries, and then it will grow in terms of volume. So in terms of a service industry, look for a growth in user base, and user base with growth in revenue. Then that is how you want to look at. And the most important thing of all is that profit growth, okay, must be good. Okay, revenue growth must be good, because when you look at IT industry, you are not looking at consumables. Okay, like consumer industry, sometimes that growth may be acceptable because consumer industry belongs to a different sector. But ICT, you want to look at good growth, okay, not average growth. Okay, so then the balance sheet must be strong, okay, because ICT industry is not capital intensive. For example, I would want to look at a current ratio that is more than 1.5, okay, and a debt to equity ratio that is less than 1. Okay.
Okay, so as you said, technology sector is not capital intensive, but how about companies that need to set up data center?
Well, I look at it in this manner, because even as data center and all those, yeah, they once that data center is built, okay, you will have recurring income. Okay, if you want to compare that with airline company, how much one Boeing, okay, can cost, let's say one aircraft could cost, let's say, tens of millions of US dollars, but then one data center would not cost you tens of millions of US dollar. Okay, most likely it will be a one time off. Okay, and then what they do is just upgrading the performance until they build another one. But I think that an airline company, you cannot operate with just one airline. You have to have multiple. So that's why need to consider that one being less capital intensive and one that is highly capital intensive.
Okay, so can you share with us like some examples of global technology companies in Malaysia?
I think for my part, okay, I like Vitrox, yeah. is already exporting to a lot of countries their technology. Okay, if you want to look at, I think at once those semiconductor companies in Malaysia, definitely they will be exporting up because when it comes to semiconductor, it's a global market, and Malaysia does not have those. Malaysia is not, let's say, where we have assembly of electronics, high-end electronics in terms of computer, laptops, or tabs, or iPhones and such in Malaysia. So therefore, semiconductor, whatever that's manufactured here, definitely will be mostly exported. So look for those as well.
Okay. So is there any company in Malaysia that is involved in the military industry?
I doubt so. I doubt so.
There's none.
Because the military industry is being led by just a few major players.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Russia, China, and US.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, do you think which one would influence the success of a tech company? Is it the tech service expertise or the management execution?
Two things. If let's say management matters to a great extent, because a management must, in an ICT industry, the management must be very dynamic. Okay. There was once one particular company, I can't recall. It was an IT company, but the CEO they hired was from the retail. I think it was Apple.
Apple lah.
Apple.
They hire the one from Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So it was a technology. Apple is a technology company, but they hire someone from the retail industry, thinking that he can actually help to look at how to improve sales channel and all those, but failed miserably because he has no greater understanding about that technology. So that's why, having the right management counts. Okay, and that management must be those people that are qualified so that they know the industry. Now, the other.
How about the technology service expertise?
Okay, then
Is the technology service expertise more important or the management more important?
if you are looking at business model, of course, what they possess. Now, the thing that is the most important, but the thing that would help the business propel forward would be the management. So while you decide on a particular stock because of the nature of its business, then I will encourage you to look at the performance, whether it's income or balance sheet, because that would detail to you how good the management is. Subsequently, read about the management. How long are they, in that industry? Where are they from previously? Then that will actually enhance your confidence in that particular stock.
Okay. So the next question is, what is the reason behind the surge of ICT stocks lately over the past few months, especially in manufacturing ICT kind of companies?
I think the one thing that drive is that, as I mentioned to you, the US-China trade war. Okay, there's not many manufacturing hubs in the world. Okay, that are able to supply, uh, not in the world, in the region, that will supply what China needs. Because of the trade war, I think China is also, besides fighting the trade war, China is also establishing herself, a made in China policy that wants to propel China into the forefront of technology. And when the trade war started, of course, certain supply of semiconductor, important chips and devices, okay, is now much costlier in China. And on top of that, certain supply from the US is being cut off. So that's why China now is sourcing regionally, okay, for this kind of products to help her in achieving 2025. So because of that, I think a lot of investors were also riding on the hype, okay, that because of this trade war, China is made in China, they are looking for technology stuff. So also a lot of investors start to invest those in the manufacturing sector. And that's why it caused the hype.
The
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we have come to the end of our Q&A session. So if you have any, okay, hang on, yeah. All right. So the now is a waiver. So whatever, so the stamp duty on the mid and small caps company will waive for effective 1st March 2018 for a period of 3 years. We have shared that before, but in case you forget, just want to remind you that the stamp duty for contract notes on ETF and structured warrants will also be waived effective 1st January 2018 for a period of 3 years. And then we also have this Bursa Uniday 2018, and but even though the name is Bursa Uniday, it is open for everyone. It's open for the public. If you are kids, you can bring them around. If you are young working adults, you also can come. If you're working adults, if you want to drop by, you may. So drop by, we have, it's like an open event for the public, whether you are university students or not, can join. And because we have a remarkable speaker lineup to share with you some of the amazing stuff that you have not learned before. We will have performances, celebrities appearance, investing games. Please go to mylifechamp.com/bursa to register for it. The link actually is shared in the chat box. If you are free on the 20th of October at Monash University, please join us in Monash University to join our Bursa Uni Day. And for our next webinar, we're going to share with you about intrinsic value masterclass, and it's on the 7th November. It's a Wednesday from 8:30 or 10 o'clock. It is not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. You can register at the link now I'm sharing with you in the chat box. Please register now if you want to learn how you can calculate intrinsic value. All right, so these are the two links that we want to share with you today, and please join us in these two events so that you can learn more about intrinsic value and learn what Bursa Uniday has to offer for you beside all the lucky draw prizes that you could win. All right, with that, thank you so much, PC, for spending your time with us today to share with us what are your insights into the technology sector, not only Malaysia but globally. I think we have learned a lot about the development of different sector in technology and how we can apply it in that, and how the world, how Malaysia respond to the Chinese and the America trade war, and how our semicon sector has benefited from it. With that, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all of you for tuning in tonight to share, to learn about tech industry exploration. All right, so have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
This is Shane Choo signing off.
Still a long question. Normally